Dakota Ditcheva isn't just another rising fighter anymore. She's becoming the most dangerous name in women's MMA, the kind of fighter that makes champions nervous, legends pay attention, and fans start believing a complete takeover is coming because when Dana White, Kayla Harrison, and even UFC fighters start talking about one woman like she's the future of violence in MMA, that's no longer hype. That's a warning to the entire sport.
Dana, an Olympic medalist in judo, has ripped through everybody in she was in another company before she came here, and she ended up winning the world.
Dana White recently praised Kayla Harrison as a monster, a beast, and one of the greatest female fighters of all time. But hidden inside those comments was a bigger message about the future of women's MMA because while Kayla Harrison dominates through pressure, grappling, and brutal control, there's another fighter rising through the sport using pure destruction, and that fighter is Dakota Ditcheva. Kayla Harrison is already terrifying enough for almost every woman alive in MMA with 2 Olympic gold medals in judo, world-class grappling, suffocating top pressure, and the ability to break opponents mentally the second she locks her hands around them because once Kayla drags fighters to the mat, the fight instantly changes into survival mode. She doesn't rush finishes, she slowly destroys opponents with ground and pound, pressure, and non-stop damage until they completely fall apart. But while Kayla controls fights, Dakota Ditcheva ends them. 15 fights, 15 wins.
Oh, she's got her hands locked up. Yep.
There it goes.
That's that judo, since Ronda was fighting and using it at an even higher level.
Toyo Tires, official tire of UFC.
Choke, rear choke.
Kayla Harrison has arrived in the big show.
12 knockouts, and every finish feels more brutal than the last because Dakota doesn't outpoint people, she hurts them. Her Muay Thai striking is terrifying, not because it's wild, but because it's calculated violence. Every body shot lands with purpose, every knee feels like it shuts an opponent's system down, and every combination comes fast, sharp, and vicious. She fights like she's trying to erase opponents from the rankings entirely.
Sprinkle by TKO or KO, I will tell you the confidence that she's going to have now getting up is going to be unbelievable. And there it is!
Beautiful knee from the plum.
And Ditcheva beckons Jenna Bishop back to her feet and goes immediately on the attack. Oh, right hand.
Trouble.
And that does it. First round finish, and Dakota Ditcheva silences.
And the scariest part is how calm she looks while doing it because most knockout artists rely on chaos while Dakota relies on precision. She stalks opponents, cuts angles, attacks the body, and slowly breaks fighters down before exploding with combinations that leave veterans looking helpless. That's why people inside the sport are taking her seriously now because Kayla Harrison didn't dismiss Dakota. She didn't call her overrated or inexperienced. Instead, she called her the real deal, a killer, and the future of MMA. And when someone with Kayla's experience says that publicly, fighters listen because Kayla has trained with elite athletes her entire career and knows exactly what championship-level talent looks like. That's why the idea of Dakota Ditcheva versus Kayla Harrison suddenly feels like one of the biggest possible fights in women's MMA because stylistically it's chaos waiting to happen. Dakota is speed, knockout power, and violent precision while Kayla is control, pressure, and domination. Dakota needs space to operate while Kayla takes space away instantly. One clean takedown from Kayla could completely change the fight, but one clean knee or body shot from Dakota could end everything in seconds. That's what makes the matchup terrifying because both women seem built to expose each other's biggest weaknesses. And then there's Cris Cyborg, one of the most feared women in MMA history, a fighter who built her legacy on pressure, power, aggression, and violence for years. But now even her name is being connected to Dakota Ditcheva because Kayla Harrison openly warned people about Dakota's striking and talked about her like she's something fighters can't survive. That's a completely different level of respect because Kayla has seen Dakota train up close and understands how dangerous those shots really are. Stylistically, Dakota...
Also Dakota killing it.
I know,
she's
dude.
in the final. Tayla Santos, that's a tough fight.
It is. It's a step up, but Dakota's ready. Dakota's prepared. She trains hard. She's got, again, the best team around her. She's so disciplined, and she's just so fucking good, dude. Like, she is the real deal. She's the full package. I'm super excited for her. I think that this is about to be a big coming out party when she makes it look easy.
What's a prediction?
I mean, I think she's gonna knock her out. Okay. I think probably second round.
Gotten behind your teammate Dakota Ditcheva. First off, what do you think of her performances so far this year?
Oh, she's a killer. She's a killer. She's the future of MMA, and I think that she's only getting better. She's young, she's hungry, she's disciplined, she's motivated. She's got a good head on her shoulder. She's got...
Versus Cyborg would be absolute war because Cyborg overwhelms opponents with aggression while Dakota dismantles them piece by piece with speed and precision. The veteran versus the future, the legend versus the next generation, and honestly Dakota may already be faster, sharper, and technically cleaner than Cyborg at this stage. That's why fans are obsessed with the matchup, because if Dakota beats Cyborg, that isn't just another win, that becomes a changing of the guard moment for women's MMA. But Dakota's ambitions go even further because she's not begging for a UFC contract or acting grateful just to be mentioned beside champions. She openly talks about fighting the best women in the world and destroying entire divisions. And that confidence is rare because...
And there from Dakota. Grips to the body by Ditcheva. Right back. Oh, big nasty. She's in trouble.
That's the end. This is in big trouble. Potentially, she's hammering away. Referee was looking close to Lisa Malden. Looked for a moment like she was going to be finished. But no quit in this woman. Another knee to the midsection. Left hand coming down from the top. Bite. Ditcheva asked her to stand back up. More body shots. This one.
Because most prospects avoid pressure, while Dakota sounds like someone who fully believes she can walk into the UFC and immediately take over. And after watching her recent performances, it's getting hard to say she's wrong, because when Dakota fought Kayla Santos, the same woman who pushed Valentina Shevchenko to one of the toughest fights of her career, Dakota didn't struggle. She broke her down and dominated her. That performance changed everything because it proved Dakota wasn't just knocking out lower-level competition anymore. She was beating proven elite fighters, and suddenly the fantasy matchups stopped sounding unrealistic. Then came the Valentina Shevchenko discussions, and that's where the MMA world really started paying attention, because Valentina has ruled women's flyweight for years with elite striking, championship composure, incredible fight IQ, and underrated grappling. But Dakota represents something Valentina hasn't faced much recently: pure youthful chaos mixed with elite striking aggression. Dakota herself admitted Valentina would be her toughest challenge, but she also believes she's younger, faster, stronger, and more dangerous in wild exchanges. And if Dakota ever beats Valentina, the shockwave through MMA would be massive, because it would instantly prove that one of the best female fighters on earth wasn't even in the UFC while building her dominance. Even UFC fighters themselves are starting to sound the alarm, because Juliana Miller described Dakota as a scary problem, a killer, and someone capable of taking over entire divisions. And when active UFC fighters publicly praise someone from another organization, that usually means they know the threat is real. Dakota's rise feels different from normal hype trains because she passes the eye test immediately. She doesn't look nervous, she doesn't hesitate, and she doesn't fight cautiously. Every performance feels like she's trying to create a viral knockout moment, and most of the time she succeeds. Her body shots are brutal, her knees are devastating, her movement is smooth, and her timing is clean, but her biggest weapon.
Behind your teammate Dakota Ditcheva. First off, what do you think of her performances so far this year?
Bro, she's a killer. She's a killer. She's the future of MMA, and I think that she's only getting better. She's young, she's hungry, she's disciplined, she's motivated. She's got a good head on her shoulder. She's got a great team around.
Taylor Starling just sent a brutal warning to the entire women's MMA world, and somehow Dakota Ditcheva became the center of the storm, because after BKFC Blood for Blood in Daytona Beach, fans stopped asking whether Taylor Starling still belonged in the spotlight and started asking a much more dangerous question: what happens if Killer B ever collides with Dakota Ditcheva? Taylor Starling didn't just win her latest fight, she went to war. Originally scheduled to face Marisol Ruelas, the entire matchup changed at the last second when Sydney Smith stepped in on short notice. But while most fighters panic when opponents suddenly change, Taylor adapted instantly and turned the fight into pure violence. The moment the bell rang...
not in the UFC yet, but look at Dakota Ditcheva. She is a scary striker, and she's an amazing athlete, right? But her mom was Muay Thai world champion, so she came up in this sport and has been doing it her whole entire life.
She marched forward, throwing non-stop pressure, heavy combinations, and brutal bare-knuckle aggression until Sydney Smith simply couldn't survive anymore. By the second round, the referee had seen enough. TKO victory, another violent statement made, and suddenly the BKFC savage known as Killer B was back in the headlines. But the biggest story wasn't the finish itself, it was who fans immediately started connecting her to next: Dakota Ditcheva, the undefeated PFL superstar many now call the future of women's MMA. 15 fights, 15 wins, 12 knockouts, elite Muay Thai striking, vicious body shots, and the kind of calm violence that makes opponents freeze before the damage even starts. Dakota Ditcheva isn't a normal prospect anymore. She's becoming one of the most feared names in women's combat sports, and now even bare-knuckle fighters are circling around her name. What makes this potential matchup so fascinating is how completely different these two women are, because Taylor Starling is chaos while Dakota Ditcheva is precision. Taylor built her reputation the hard way through bloody wars, brutal exchanges, and non-stop pressure inside the unforgiving world of BKFC. She's not polished, she's not corporate.
War.
And she's definitely not manufactured. She's a mother of two who earned respect by surviving violence and embracing ugly fights that most people would run from. Her nickname, Killer B, came from brutal sparring sessions against bigger opponents where she refused to back down no matter how hard things got. Taylor doesn't care about looking technical or clean. She wants pressure, aggression, and damage. The more violent a fight becomes, the more dangerous she gets. Dakota Ditcheva is the complete opposite because she doesn't rely on chaos. She relies on surgical destruction. Her Muay Thai striking is terrifying because everything she throws has purpose. Every knee lands clean, every body shot breaks opponents down, and every combination feels perfectly timed. She doesn't swing wildly or waste movement. She dissects fighters piece by piece until they finally collapse under pressure. That's why Dana White himself praised her finishing ability and aggression. That's why fighters across UFC movement. PFL, and even BKFC keep mentioning her name. Dakota doesn't just beat opponents, she makes violence look effortless. And that's why this potential collision feels so dangerous, because it's not just striker versus striker, it's bare-knuckle chaos versus elite Muay Thai.
Ahead, yeah, absolutely. Liver shot right there, right in the body, bang!
From that southpaw stance.
Somewhere in the world, Bas Rutten is bouncing up and down right now.
Do it! Dakota Ditcheva with a quick stick! And clinches the #1 seed. Class work again from Dakota Ditcheva in the striking. Man. The playoffs with a win many times. Oh, these brutal. Oh, nasty combination. And the body work. Dakota.
If she's going to have that getting up, it's going to be unbelievable.
Beautiful lead from Plum. And Ditcheva gets Jenna Bishop back to her feet and goes immediately on the attack.
High precision. Taylor Starling thrives when fights become ugly and unpredictable, while Dakota punishes mistakes with ruthless efficiency. One wild exchange could completely change everything, because in striking battles, especially against women this dangerous, a single mistake can end the night instantly. On paper, Dakota would probably enter the fight as the favorite because her striking is cleaner, sharper, and more proven at elite MMA level. But combat sports don't always...
She's undefeated. She's knocking people out cold. Dakota Ditcheva is taking over MMA and she's not slowing down. Remember the name.
Follow logic. Taylor represents unpredictability, the kind of fearless pressure that forces opponents into mistakes they normally never make. She's willing to walk through damage just to break fighters mentally, and that creates a completely different type of danger. Fans keep asking the same question now. Has Dakota Ditcheva ever faced someone this fearless before? Someone who genuinely enjoys chaos and doesn't care about taking damage if it means dragging you into a war? Because that's exactly the energy Taylor Starling brings every time she fights. But while Taylor was sending shockwaves through BKFC, another massive conversation exploded around Dakota Ditcheva, and this time it involved one of the biggest voices in MMA history, Joe Rogan. According to Rogan, if Dakota ever steps into the cage against Valentina Shevchenko right now, things could get very ugly, because Valentina at 125 pounds is still considered one of the most complete and terrifying female fighters ever seen in MMA. Rogan called her a monster, a killer, and a different level of fighter entirely. And honestly, it's hard to argue against that.